Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, hi, I'm Bree. I garden in Kansas Zone 7, and today I'm going to show you what the garden is currently looking like here at the beginning of June. The last time I did a garden tour in May, I didn't even have the in-ground space planted, and we currently have tomatoes setting fruit and everything. I am definitely learning a thing or two here in the new space that I'm also having to navigate that we're going to talk about. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. One of the things I am currently trying to navigate and figure out is just my sun and my heat, because this area does get a lot of sun, and I'm noticing some like sun heat stress, especially in my tomatoes, but mostly my broccoli, which I've actually never had this happen. So I was looking it up the other day because all of my broccoli is currently heading up. I'm going to be harvesting all of this probably this week, but it has this slight purple yellow tint to it where I'm like, what is going on? Because I've grown this variety for years now and I've never had this issue. But at my old space, every year I've grown broccoli, I've had it in an area that got pretty decent shade, but still got enough sunlight where it didn't really affect things. So I started to look things up, and apparently broccoli can kind of show stress through its color being a little bit more purple and yellow. The yellow tone isn't from the broccoli bolting. I know what a broccoli bolting looks like, but apparently when broccoli is a little bit more like sun stressed, it can turn a purple yellow color. And that is kind of what's currently going on. Some of the heads look a little bit more yellow. Some of the other ones have a little bit more of a purple tint to them. And then other ones look just fine. But this area here gets full-blown sun, and honestly I wasn't thinking too much of it when I was planting, just because this was the one area I had available for broccoli when I had to plant broccoli. So either way, a lot of this is going to be coming out probably this week. The broccoli is definitely like, okay, we're getting a little too warm, even though this Bellstar has been great when it comes to heat for me. So this head here looks really good. You can see a little bit of the yellowing. Oh, there is a cabbage worm. These things, I swear. We're at the point now where I'm just hand picking them off, and it's been fine, especially with how close we are to harvest. But this one here, you can see it's looking pretty good. You can see a little bit of yellowing to it, and it definitely doesn't look as dense as it did yesterday. So I will probably just give this one another day or two to see how much bigger we can get, because it is a decent size, but it definitely could be bigger than it is. You can see this one here definitely has a lot more of that purpley yellowy tone that I just mentioned, and some of these heads have kind of grown out of that. When they're a little bit smaller, it's been looking more like that, but then you can see here, this one definitely looks pretty good too. You can see it's definitely not as dense, but it's still a pretty good broccoli head there. That one's a pretty good size. That one's a bit smaller at the moment. This is the one that has been heading up the longest, and you can see how this head here is definitely starting to separate a bit. So this is one I probably need to get harvested, because you can see the florets here, it's yellowing because this one is wanting to bolt on me a little bit. That's still fine. I'll probably just wait another day or two to get that guy. But yeah, the broccoli is definitely showing some signs I'm not quite used to, but it's fine, it's edible, and I'm really not too worried about it. Apparently I missed a garlic scape on the chestnut, so I have had issues with my garlic. I want to say this for the first time ever. I had this as an issue slightly last year, but let's talk about it. So first and foremost, you might be able to see this bed over here is completely harvested. That was all of my soft neck garlic, which is the earliest it has ever come out of the garden. My soft neck has always been a little bit ahead of the hard neck, but not to the degree where I'm harvesting it weeks early. We had a really weird spring where in March we were having 90-degree days, multiple days, and I honestly don't think we've ever had multiple days in the 90s. And then we got cold again, and then we got warm again, and cold again, and warm again, and cold again. And it's just been this whole thing for the entire year. And what ended up happening with that, outside of the soft neck, so the soft neck actually was fine. I did not have this issue with the soft neck at all, but with the hard neck, I had witches brooming. And as you might be able to see, most of this bed is harvested. About half of this bed is harvested. And that is all hardneck varieties that I had to harvest probably 3 weeks early because of witch's brooming. So witch's brooming is pretty much when your garlic sprouts a second time. Kind of think about it as if an onion were to go to seed. This garlic thought it lived through its entire life cycle and re-sprouted in the ground again. It thinks it's gone through its whole life cycle, and since it sprouted again, it's going through its whole cycle again. And if you leave that garlic in the ground, what's going to happen is it's either going to rot in the ground, or your garlic is going to completely split open and expose all those cloves. And you're also just not going to have your garlic cure correctly in that instance. So what ended up happening was I harvested all of the hardneck garlic that has witch's broomed. It looks like I may have missed a few that I might need to go ahead and pull. So shockingly enough, none of the chestnut ended up witch's brooming, which is great because this is the one variety I really love to roast, and I really wanted to make sure this cured correctly. But I had a new variety, I think it's called Menchi, I don't know, I'll put it across the screen. Every single one of those witch's broomed. I had multiple Russian reds and Italian purples witch's broom, and all of my Enchelium red and my chestnut red were completely fine, which is great because I planted a ton of Enchelium red. That's my soft neck variety that can store clear through late winter. So I really was excited that that did not get witch's brooming. And then I was very, very happy that my chestnut didn't witch's broom because I ended up just having to harvest it. I went ahead and just made a ton of garlic powder because I go through garlic powder like that anyway. So it wasn't a complete loss, but I'm glad I caught it when I did, because that could have been a serious issue if I didn't catch it when I did. So unfortunately, garlic has not gone the way it's gone for years now. Garlic has been one of those crops I've never really had an issue with ever. So to see such an issue this year was kind of interesting to me, because last year I think I had maybe 3 or 4 heads witch's broom, and that's when I learned about witch's brooming, which last year was also a very weird wet spring. So I don't know, it's very interesting to see the differences every single year, and especially the differences in 2 crops that I've really never had that big of an issue with. I've never had an issue with the Bell Star broccoli. I've had issues with other varieties, but I've really never had a big issue when it comes to the garlic. But it seems like so many people are having issues with the witch's brooming this year, so I find that just very interesting with the weather that we've been dealing with. The chestnut still probably has, I want to say, a week or 2. This is probably going to be a late harvest for the chestnut. You can see I really only have 4 full leaves. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 leaves, maybe 3 on some of the plants die back, and you're looking at about half. So I'll probably let 2 more of these leaves completely die back, depending on how our weather is. If we're dry, if we're rainy, it's going to depend on how quickly this really dies back. The scapes were all harvested a few weeks ago, minus that one I just grabbed. So this is definitely on its way out, which in my last video, I talked about all of my succession sowing plans, because like I just mentioned, all the broccoli is coming out, all of the garlic is coming out, and all of the potatoes will be out here by the end of June. So I have some tomatoes already going for the last few weeks where I will plant that where some of this garlic has come out. But this area here is planned for extra tomatoes, corn, okra, a few more flower varieties. And then once the onions come out here first, second week of July, that will be an area I probably save for some fall broccoli. But the one thing I'm so excited about that happened this morning, this is the first bloom. We have our very first poppy blooming. I am so excited. So I have grown bread seed poppies now for the last handful of years. I love making poppy seed bread, saving the poppy seeds, and I am loving how the poppies have done. This year I decided to buy some of this flower netting, and it has worked so well with our winds. But these poppies are about to go crazy. We have so many buds on them, and I will also probably be harvesting these by the end of June. Typically these flower pretty quickly and they dry out almost fully by the end of June. So this entire in-ground space, so pretty much all of the raised beds minus the onions there and the asparagus are going to be completely empty by the end of the month. So we have a lot of area that we can work with where we still have a lot of growing time. So if you're interested in kind of knowing a little bit more detail about my succession sowing plans, I'll link that video, but we have a lot of room that's going to be appearing very soon. So here's the potatoes. You can see there's some yellowing right there, and they've definitely started to die back. They look a little bit more green and lush on the camera, I will say that, but we are approaching a huge potato harvest pretty soon. This will all really probably kick into gear this week. I want to say we're already at day 70 to day 80 on these potatoes, and this Kennebec variety is roughly like a 95-day window, maybe a little bit more with just how early I planted them this year because they took a little bit to take off, but otherwise they're looking really good, and I'm really excited to see what our potato harvest is going to look like. Now, as far as the onions go, they are looking pretty good. They are bulbing up. Let's see if I can find a good one here. There's a good one. So these roughly have anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks, roughly. I've always harvested my onions right around the first, second week of July, like I mentioned. So you still have a little bit of time, but you can see they're going crazy. They're really going to start bulbing up over the next few weeks. I did have 2 onions completely just die on me and just like liquefy into the ground, and it was really gross, but otherwise they're doing pretty well. I think it was just some of those greens probably broke a little bit too much, and then we got a lot of rain, and then that was the whole issue with the onions. And that's one of those reasons why I do have this wind block on here, because we do have such crazy wind, and in my experience, the more your greens are breaking, and if you have a lot of rain, all you're doing is introducing that rain into that center of the onion, and then you can have that issue like I just mentioned, where I had 2 random onions completely rot out on me in the ground, which that's happened a time or two throughout the years, and that was one of the reasons why I've came to this conclusion that I need to have a wind block. Sometimes you just can't help what a plant is going to do, but for the most part these onions are looking really, really good, and I'm hoping we get a good onion harvest this year. I will say though, our pumpkins are starting to go crazy. The pumpkins are looking massive compared to everything else on this trellis. So this trellis here is cantaloupe, honey nut squash, and pumpkins. Very excited about this trellis. And then the other trellis is mostly green beans, loofah. I do have a birdhouse gourd, and then I have some cucumbers over here. So the beans are really starting to take off. My loofah is looking like it's doing pretty well. It's really starting to grasp on and take off. I have had some flowers blooming. I have some little loofahs on the plant. I will say the birdhouse gourd is absolutely insane. It's probably 4 times the size of the loofah. I'm really excited about the birdhouse gourd because I've never grown it before, and I think it'd be really fun to do some things with the birdhouse gourd because we have so many birds. But the beans are starting to really take off, and they're starting to trellis. So I have a feeling that this trellis, the next time you guys see it, at least the next garden tour, is probably going to look insanely different, because once these trellises get going, they really get going. The in-ground space has been doing really well. I've really enjoyed it. I will say planting this big of an in-ground space kicked my butt. I'm not used to planting out a ton in ground, and the up and down made me so sore. I have some celery over here, snapdragons, zinnias, cosmos, a ton of tomatoes. Ooh, I need to show you guys the tomatillos. The tomatillos are going absolutely crazy, and I want to say this one plant already has like 30 plus that it's trying to set. The celery has grown so much in the last few weeks. When I put these plants in the ground, gosh, what, 3 weeks ago, they were itty bitty, and they're really starting to get some good size on them. Do you guys see all the weeds? Like literally, it's insane the amount of weeds that are in this bed. But my snapdragons are starting to bloom. My zinnias are starting to bloom. cosmos are starting to bloom, and I'm really excited to have like a whole strip of flowers. I've never grown a bunch of flowers in a little strip before, and I think it's going to be really pretty once they get all tall and big. The tomatoes are looking so good. I can't believe we have so many set already. Tomatillos are going so crazy. I'm really hoping I actually get tomatillos this year. Last year was my first year planting tomatillos, and unfortunately I got 0 tomatillos because I dealt with herbicide drift and then I dealt with a really bad hailstorm. So I really didn't get much tomatoes last year at all. I didn't get any tomatillos at all last year. So I'm hoping this is redemption year for sure. Like I said, I'm planting out multiple waves of tomatoes in hopes that we can at least get some good salsa in the pantry and some crushed tomatoes and things this year. But I have all of my peppers. All the peppers are looking pretty good. I always feel like the peppers take a little bit to kick off, especially in the month of May. They really start to get going here in June. The tomato year was so bad last year. I have 1 bag of frozen tomatoes in my freezer still because I really couldn't do much with 1 bag. So my plan is to thaw that out once I get some more tomatoes going this year. This little strip here is a sunflower patch. You guys know how much I love my Goldie honey bears, and I planted some mammoths along the side. Oh, and I didn't even talk about, we have a fence going, as you might be able to see. We don't have the wire up quite yet, but we do have fishing line to help spook the deer. Luckily enough, the deer have been pretty respectful of the garden. I was out here the other day and out of nowhere I heard a bunch of like brush shifting, and there was 2 deer just staring at me, and they just kept staring at me. So I said hi, and they would wag their tail. It was really cute. But hopefully they just stay out of the garden until we can get the wire up. We've just had so many other projects that we are currently working on that we haven't got to it. So hopefully we get to the fence soon before deer decide that my garden is a nice, lovely snack. But we have black beans and kidney beans here. They all started to sprout and they're all looking good. My plan, oh, that was the other thing I am planning for the raised bed area over here. I have white beans. I have a, gosh, what is it called? I don't remember what it's called. I have a white bean I'm gonna plant, and then I'm also gonna plant more black beans and kidney beans as well, because this is a great plant and kind of forget it and set it crop, because you're planting these, you're gonna let them produce as many beans as possible, and then you're just letting the beans dry out to where I really don't have to do much with these 2 rows at all other than make sure they are weeded. And I really want to put back a bunch of black bean, kidney beans, and white beans like canned up in my pantry ready to go. We do so much chili, and this is the first time I've ever been able to plant out a significant amount of beans for drying. I think I told you guys once before, I want to say it was probably either 2021 or 2022, I planted black beans. It was actually, it might have been 2020. I think it was before the whole remodel of the garden. I planted black beans after my garlic, and they did well, but I was very humbled by the fact that an 8x4 garden bed produced me like half a cup of dried beans. So I have more areas I'm going to be planting some dried beans out, and I'm hoping that we can get a decent harvest of dried beans this year, because I would love that. I'll tell you what, it is humid. I feel my hair being very frizzy. Along with that sunflower patch, I planted another one along my garage. I planted a bunch of red sunflowers right there because I thought that would be really pretty along the green garage, and I might plant more sunflowers. We have some volunteers coming up. I have some mammoth ones popping up in the corners. Once we get the fence up, I might go around and plant a sunflower at each one of the T-posts just because I can. I will make a note, I feel a little bit behind compared to previous years just because I got some stuff planted out later than I typically do. I also have harvested broccoli by now, and I haven't harvested any of my broccoli by now. Outside of the garlic, I just feel a little bit behind. I will say I definitely feel like I have had to reevaluate my goals for this year, because getting the garden established has definitely been a lot more work than I anticipated. But I think at this point we all have come to conclusion that I am very delusional. It is one reason why I get a lot of stuff done, but I am very delusional when it comes to how much I can actually get done. And I'm thinking I'm really not going to be able to plan or knock out a lot of the perennials I was initially thinking I really wanted to do for the year. I really wanted to get some more perennials established, and honestly I have not had any time at all to think about perennial crops. I've really just had to think about what I've grown in the past and just go for it, because I really haven't had much time to research and plan and do all those things with perennials that I was really wanting to do this year. So I don't know, I'm just trying to be realistic with myself this gardening season, and if I can at least pull off all of my annual crops, I'll be happy. I need to go through and search for cabbage worms because I'm finding a handful right now and I'm not even trying. But that is what the garden is currently looking like and what I'm currently dealing with in the garden. I think I'm really going to learn a lot in this space, just navigating it throughout the summer, because I haven't yet. And there's only so much you can prepare yourself for. Like I mentioned, I was not prepared for this little bit of coloration when it comes to the broccoli and just dealing with sun stress and just learning how the sun is shifting. I will say this area right here is getting a lot more shade than it did 6 weeks ago, and the in-ground space is getting a lot more sun than it got 6 weeks ago. And as our seasons continue to change, I'm going to have to learn how to navigate this space because I haven't yet. I really learned how the sun shifted throughout the season in my old space, and I was really able to really get on top of my succession sowing and stuff when it comes to that. This space, I think, just gets overall a lot more sun, so I think I'm just gonna have to learn how to navigate dealing with such extreme sun, because this gets way more sun than my previous space ever did, and I didn't think too much sun could be a bad thing. We will see how this goes as we continue to get hot and more sunny throughout the summer months, but that is currently what the garden is looking like and what I'm currently dealing with. Like I said, we are going to be harvesting so much in the next 4 to 6 weeks, and this space is really going to change in the month of June going into July with how much will be coming out of the garden. So make sure you're following along and stay tuned, because we have a lot more of the gardening season ahead. Thank you guys so much for being here for the June garden tour. I will see you guys all in the next one. Bye.